Winter horror movies. No, not Christmas horror movies. Regular winter movies. And that doesn't mean specifically snow, but in a lot of cases, yes, there's snow. It is winter, and we have just been through a hell of a snowstorm. There is still snow on the ground outside, and now the people in the South are feeling it. So let's get into my top 10 winter horror movies. Welcome back to the Ectoviolence channel. My name is Alec. This is Yoshi. Today we're listing out my top 10 winter horror movies. So I tried to avoid like Christmas movies with this. I didn't even put Jack Frost on here because I kind of associate that more with Christmas still. The opening credits are done on a Christmas tree with ornaments. It's a Christmas movie. However, there is still one holiday movie on here, but it's not a Christmas one. So with that small disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it with number 10, The Good Son from 1993. Starring Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin. This is a solid movie. I saw this once as a child, and then didn't see it again till adulthood. As a child, I thought it was decent, but as an adult, it was actually better, which is surprising. I really appreciate both Elijah Wood's and Macaulay Culkin's careers. Specifically, let's talk Elijah Wood for a minute. So, other than this, Back to the Future 2, which is obviously a one-line role, but Flipper with Paul Hogan, he did. Deep Impact was good. Obviously, the Lord of the Rings movies. I love him in the Maniac remake. I'm stoked that we're finally going to get to see him in the Toxic Avenger remake. That Wilford show he was in was awesome. And then talking Macaulay Culkin, obviously Home Alone, right? But then you have stuff like The Good Son, Richie Rich, Party Monster. And he's not doing, so many roles these days, but he is still doing interesting stuff. Anyway, I talked more about the actors than the movie, but check it out if you haven't seen The Good Son. Number 9, Ginger Snaps Back. Now, some people don't like this movie. I get that. I don't think it's, excellent, but I do like to watch this one in the winter. It gives off kind of like period piece vibes, you know what I mean? Plus, it's a werewolf movie. Sick. Both sisters are back, and they both are great. Their names are slipping on me. Emily Perkins is the younger sister, right, that's in It. And the other actor, I can't remember her name, but she's in, was that American Mary, and is that the movie? I can't remember if that's the title now. I might be mixing that up with something else. But she's in that, and then Freddy vs. Jason. And obviously the first two Ginger Snaps movies, which the first is hands down my favorite werewolf movie, I think. But I've never been big into werewolf movies, so, what does that even mean? Let's move to number 8, My Bloody Valentine from 1981. Now, this is the exception for the holiday movies, because now, this year, we're getting, 2 or 3 more holiday, Valentine's horror movies. That Hard Eyes movie that's coming out, that one looks like it's going to be most up my alley. Companion, which looks really interesting. I don't necessarily think it's set on Valentine's Day, but they're releasing it and it kind of has that vibe. And then there's one that's, I guess, called Love Hurts, and it looks more action-y than horror, I guess. And obviously, I like both of the My Bloody Valentine movies. The original is just something I think that fits the winter vibe a little bit better. However, I think this year I am going to do a video on the 3D aspect of the original movie. I have the copy that comes with the 3D glasses, and I think I'm going to sit down and watch it. I did actually see that one in theaters as well. So honestly, you could put either one in this spot on this list. Both of them, but number 7, 30 Days of Night. Now, I've talked a lot about Josh Hartnett on this channel this year because of the movie Trap, and I also reviewed The Faculty on VHS. I'm a big fan of his, especially when he's in horror movies, Scream King, and this movie's no exception. It's a very dark vibe. I really love the idea behind it. It's based on a graphic novel, which I honestly haven't read, but I'd be interested in checking out. This has kind of become a cult classic. I think a lot more people are growing to appreciate this movie. I don't remember if I saw this in theaters or not, but I feel like I did. But if you haven't seen this one in a while, or you haven't seen it at all, definitely check it out. Vampires in the Snow. You can't go wrong. And number 6, American Psycho from 2000. I'm a big American Psycho fan. I'm a big fan of the author Bret Easton Ellis. Probably my favorite author. Between American Psycho, Less Than Zero, Rules of Attraction, and even the movies that were based on the books, I liked them all. But American Psycho specifically is the first one I came into contact with as a kid. And I always thought of it as more of a thriller type drama than a horror movie. I mean, there's There's horrific shit going on, but like, I always thought like the psychological weird shit was more interesting growing up, but these days I come to accept it just as a horror movie, but with other elements. It's a very interesting character study. It's obviously a psycho, and if you've read the book, you're like, this is toned down. There's shit that goes on in the book that I wouldn't wish one of my worst enemies. Well, that's not true. Number 5, a new movie, Longlegs from 2024. Now this one actually has a decent amount of snow in it. The vibes in general just give off winter. It's a cold movie. It looks cold. It feels cold. And I thought the marketing was the biggest issue with this movie, in my opinion. They overhyped it a little bit. So when I saw it in theaters, I was a little disappointed. I was like, kind of pissed. Not gonna lie, but I eventually got home. Eventually came out on Blu-ray. I bought that. Didn't buy the 4K. I might have changed that decision, but it's alright. We got the Blu-ray. That's fine with me. And I watched it again, and I appreciated it more the second time around. The hype that they created for this thing wasn't there anymore. They were calling it the next Silence of the Lambs, and it has a lot of interesting, cool stuff going for it, but it wasn't the vibe of Silence of the Lambs. So anyway, Longlegs. Number 4, Jacob's Ladder from 1990. This is a great winter movie. This is a great New York movie. This is a great movie. Very underrated. Again, it's become a cult classic, and Tim Robbins, man. You think he does great in The Shawshank Redemption, wait till you see him in this. Overall, I think he's an underappreciated actor. We don't hear his name anywhere near enough. Especially considering Shawshank is on like all these top movie lists and some people's favorite movie. Like, yeah, Morgan Freeman's great, but like Tim Robbins carries that movie too. But I digress. He's great in Jacob's Ladder. This is a scary and weird movie with a lot of interesting anti-war stuff tied in. I highly recommend checking this one out. Number 3, the classic Child's Play from 1988. Now, I don't know why this isn't on more people's winter list movies. Apparently, most people think winter and they think snow. It's snow on the ground constantly. That's what winter is. Well, that's not what winter is unless you're in fucking Antarctica. Or Alaska. I mean, Canada maybe, somewhere. Like, not all of Canada, obviously. But this movie has a very winter setting. There's snow on the ground. Andy's wearing coats and jackets. It just works. It's a great, just like casual slasher that doesn't use snow as part of the plot or anything. It doesn't need to. That's not what I was looking for with this list. Except a couple of them coming up that are hard to deny. But Child's Play is easily one of my top slasher franchises of all time. It's a lot of people's. He's one of the big slasher icons, especially these days. I have nothing but love for Child's Play and Chucky. And coming in at number 2, to no one's surprise, from 1980, The Shining. Now, the number 1 and 2 spots would probably be flipped depending on who you're talking to. To me, they're in the right spots here. This is where they belong. I do love The Shining, and it's one of those movies I wait for the first big snowfall every year to watch. And then, sometimes I end up watching it before I rewatch Dr. Sleep in the summer, because Dr. Sleep feels more like a summer movie to me for some reason. But either way, this is a legendary classic. What can I say about it? I actually just did a full review of it on VHS. You can check that out if you're interested. Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers. Solid. And the number 1 winter horror movie of all time for me has got to be from 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing. Did you think it was going to be anything else? If this movie wasn't at least on the number 2 spot on anybody else's list, I can't trust that person. They can't babysit for me. No, you can't borrow my car. Nah. John Carpenter's The Thing may be my favorite horror movie of all time, regardless. So when you put it into the winter movie category, it's going to be number 1. This movie's perfect. There are no notes. Well, except that maybe we could have used a woman in there somewhere. Or 2. Well, that's it. That's my top 10 winter horror movies of all time. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let me know what I left out. Believe me, most of the things you're going to say I probably left out intentionally, but I'd love to hear why you love them and why they would be in your top 10, or just leave me your top 10 in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.